They took you to a notorious prison where good friends of mine have rotted in the past.
Exactly.
What was that like? What was your experience like in the dungeons?
So before we get to the dungeons, we're brought to Ashdod port where we're manhandled off the boat, and then they had this kind of like Guantanamo Bay, kind of almost Nazi Germany-esque kind of a theme park set up where everyone is put out in the hot sun, you cable ties, seated in awkward positions, and if you don't adhere to the awkward position, you have to go up on your knees. About 3 hours in the sun, and then as the sun went down, they move you from spot to spot. I lifted my head up just to see what was going on with one of my comrades at one point who was being physically and mentally abused. They always target ethnic minorities as well. It seemed like the darker the colour of your skin, the more likely you are to get a hiding from them. I've never in my life, I think Chris Small said this as well, I've never in my life seen a more almost cartoonishly, openly racist group of people in my life. If you were white, you'd get a slightly better time. And if the more Palestinian you are, like the more depravity is going to be visited upon you. So I had my head slapped a few times because I was looking up just to offer a bit of solidarity to people. We were eventually about 6 or 7 hours in that position before we were processed. So yeah, there's all these kind of like little Hitlers, you know, they're kind of like shit Nazis, you know, like they're like kind of real like fascists, but they're not very good at it. So there's a kind of like, the phrase I was thinking for them is kind of silly sadists. On the one hand, they're kind of, you know, really sinister in what they do, and they try and create this kind of spook sensation for you, but they're not very good at it. There's a lot of fear in their eyes as well, and that's a theme of the next few days. This attempt to put guns in your face, and dogs and SWAT teams and psychological, you know, torture techniques, but also there's a real weakness to them as well at the same time. It's this weird duality with them, and I think it was very symbolic of an ideology and a state that's in its last legs, I hope. But yeah, so I get processed, they go through my bag. If they see any Palestinian image, or like I had my Ladji Celtic jersey and they just threw it in the bin. And I kept thinking, if you were so comfortable in yourself, why do you have to dispose of anything that bears the symbols of the country that you've taken over? Like, if you're so comfortable in your righteousness to be in this land, why is every Palestinian image such a threat for you? Like, it reminded me, I think, of some of the kind of harder elements of loyalism in the north of Ireland. It's so insecure, it has to have its flag everywhere, and it has to try and kind of degrade and traduce anything in the opposing community's culture. It's just like screamed insecurity to me. We eventually get processed. I don't sign anything. They asked me to sign something that gave some recognition that I had entered Israel illegally. I hadn't. I'd been kidnapped in international waters. I refused to sign anything because that would be to acknowledge that I was even trying to get to Israel in itself. I wasn't. I was trying to get to Gaza, which I think most people would concede is in Palestine, a state that Britain, Ireland, Australia, most major Western powers recognise. I refused to eat, and I just went with a dignified non-compliance protest, as is the kind of tradition, I think, of the Irish Republican struggle. And then when I eventually got to Kitsiot prison, I realised that